Hunters and campers of Reddit, what's the most scared you've ever been in the woods? I have one for this. We were on a week-long backpacking trip in Yosemite. All girl except our useless male instructor. My high school mandated a full week of camping at the beginning and ending of each year. Our first night was like half a mile from where we parked, at a pretty well-established campground. Late evening, we hear what sounds like a gunshot, and are surprised. Later, we hear another one, but closer. Everyone else is asleep, and I hear someone moving around nearby. I knew it wasn't one of us because everyone except our useless male instructor was within 4 feet of me on either side, and at first I thought it was another camper group. But it sounded like the footsteps were coming toward me from above, and sounded like the person was trying to move quietly. I lift my face out of my sleeping bag to hear better, and I'm shocked to hear they reached our campsite, and actually started messing with our bear box. I'm wide-eyed in shock, and the other girls wake up and one of them immediately starts crying. Our useless male instructor wakes up, and sits up against a tree, still in his bag. I'm looking directly at the box, and this absolute psychopath bends to look around the bear box at me for a second, then goes back to trying to open it, and adrenaline kicks in. I stand up, walk over to him ready to fight this guy. This is fight flight. I know it was stupid AF, and he stands up and it's a fucking bear. A black bear. Thank fuck. He's about my height, and he looked as startled as I was, and he just scampers away. Everyone is fully awake and our useless teacher is somewhere, and some park rangers wander into camp and ask if we've seen the bear. They were chasing him away with rubber bullets. Case closed. I basically fought a bear and won. Bears are chicken shits. Unless they're a mama with her cubs or you corner them. Monsieur, my ex's parents have a tiny corgi mix dog that will gladly chase the bears out of the yard. This dog can't be more than 1.5 feet tall, and the bears are just terrified of her. Haha. Black bears, anyway. Aren't grizzlies notoriously aggressive? Yeah, if you see one of those you're basically fucked. Used to live in very remote area. Was literally the most northern community in Ontario, Canada by year-round. Got lost on my aunt and uncle's property just hiking for 7 hours in September when it must have been high of 8C, low well below 5C. Ended up getting bearings for the sun's position and knowing there was a river that ran through the area. Can't explain how scary that is, especially in fall. I always carry a handheld GPS now. I like to try and not use it, but it's there if I need it to follow my track back. I was hiking and it was really dark, but my friend and I didn't want to waste our batteries, so we decided to power through in the dim moonlight. All of a sudden, a huge animal got spooked right next to me and ran away. I didn't know there was one right there. I looked around and realized it was a cow. I turned my crappy phone flashlight on for a bit and there were at least 5 cows around us just staring. You forgot how big those animals are until you're right next to them, monsieur. A little backstory: this was a hike in New Zealand and part of the trail goes through a private farm. The rest is up the mountain. That's why there were cows. My sister was camping once and woke up to something outside her tent. Turns out it was a cow. She and her friends up unknowingly pitched camp in a cow field. Me and my grandpa were hunting pheasant in the mountains of PA when I was a teenager. We were charged at by a black bear. It was terrifying yet gave me an insane rush. My grandpa and I shot it multiple times, killing it. The bear kept going faster from adrenaline until we hit it enough times. So yeah, that's basically it. The hunters almost became the hunted. I was walking with my best friend in the wood at 1 a.m. I was drunk and he was high, but we are both sure we saw 2 pairs of eyes at about the same level of our eyes. We then saw sort of a bear-type body, but we knew bear don't live in this wood. We just froze there and I yelled, "Oh hell no," and when I started running I realized that my friend was already 50 meters away running LMAO. I almost shit myself this night. A 2-person tent is usually a cozy kind of small until you hear rustling leaves and growling a few feet away. Then it becomes claustrophobic as hell. English is not my first language, so don't bully me. I'm bad at grammar and stuff. I was with my dad. In Mexico, if I may add. Well, the area we hunt, a couple of mountains-ish, owned by my grandparents, was a huge amount of land. Well, the day we were hunting was the day our phones were dead. Add to this. Well, it just so happens that in the area poachers were spotted hunting for coyotes. Now poachers don't pack lightly. My dad is friends with a couple that frequent the area. There was a bit of a deal where they hunt and keep the area tidy, and in turn we don't get gunned down on sight, so it had been like that for years. Well, apparently as of recently another group of poachers had been interfering with the traps and bait left by Poachers Group 1, and as a result they were looking to put an end to their troubles. Well, the day we were to go hunting, we were caught up at the Monte we frequent by 8 men dressed in black who held us at gunpoint. Luckily my father and his brother were able to talk their way out of being murdered and explained they were in fact the ones who owned the land and were not in fact idiot poachers who can keep their hands to themselves. TL. Dr. Poachers mess with poachers, and Poachers Group 1 mistakes us for thieving poachers as we're held at gunpoint but luckily escape unharmed. While hiking with my wife, I heard a sound on the right side of the trail. I looked closer and it was a young bear. Then I heard something on the left. I looked closer and, you guessed it, it was Mama. The young one was clearly trying to reunite, and it came into the trail about 50 yards behind us and started walking straight at us. Fortunately, after about 10 to 15 yards it took a sharp turn off the trail, reunited with Mama, and they hurried off without turning us into a snack. Holy crap, I had to poop in an absolutely terrifying outhouse. It was in one of the most remote areas of the woods. Maybe 100 meters from the campsite. There was a hole in the wall. It was infested with spiders, and the walk there and back was filled with loud rustling and roots. I pooped at the comfort station for the rest of the trip, even though it was about 300 meters away. The one time I was there still gives me the creeps when I think about it. One was when I was younger and we went camping with my grandparents and some family friends. There was a snake that had entered our campsite and wasn't leaving. Apparently it was dangerous. My grandfather was a badass biologist who was used to working in the woods and capturing animals for samples. He grabbed it, stuffed it in my grandmother's pillowcase, and drove it off into a secluded part of the woods and dropped it off. I was terrified he would get bitten, but he didn't give a single fuck. My grandma was doing a backpack hiking trip with her friend. It was summer, so it was warm enough for them to not have to pack tents. Unfortunately for Grandma, a wolverine decided to climb up onto her body as she was asleep. It was there for at least an hour and showed no signs of wanting to leave. She finally mustered the courage to sit up as fast as she could when had moved closer to her legs, and she let out a blood-curdling scream at it, spooked it like no other, and it booked it into the nearest group of trees. I was an American from Texas that joined the Canadian Boy Scouts in Alberta. We moved as EXPATS. I found out that I joined the Special Forces at age 12. We climbed a mountain to get to a cave in the Rockies. While in the cave there was a blizzard which cleared up that evening. We basically slid down the mountain. All of our food and water was frozen. During the climb down, the sun sank below the mountains and it was an orange-eerie darkness that evening. We were about 3/4 down the mountain. I remember using a rope to make a sharp U-turn around a trail that was a cliff on the opposite side. I remember seeing the dark river vein inlaid in the whitest powder field at the base of the mountain. Once we reached the bottom, we had to hike in 6 to 8 inches of fresh powder to the campsite. Along the route it was a whiteout. You couldn't tell the difference between the horizon and the snow. It must have only been around 1800. Along the route we were shot at by hunters. Our scoutmaster yelled, "We are scouts. Ceasefire." The hunters yelled, "We'll come to you." They did, and after apologies, that was that. That was the scariest thing. Today I'm a U.S. Army officer and I've still never been more afraid than that expedition percent. Greater than thank fucking God they miss their shot. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.